few weeks before it came to me. I had to choose my heart, heal and get free. She said life's easy, pain comes with living. Surround myself with everything God's given. It's time to change my routine, create a new scene that feels like an unreachable dream.
Good morning to everyone tuning in. Hopefully your Friday has started on a great path, and if not, I pray you can adjust and push through. You are watching Mentally How Are You? I am your host, Neena Lock, here to discuss all things mental healing. In the previous episode, we had our mental health check-in for the start of the new year. Now, this new year is already moving fast, and we do have some heavy engagement currently. So I would encourage everyone to watch our previous episode. That's episode 28, just to review some areas, we need to focus on to maintain mental stability. With that being said, it is February and tomorrow is Valentine's Day. If you celebrate, yay, have a wonderful time. If you do not, yay, have a wonderful time. What better time to discuss the topic that we hear about day in and day out at this point, whether it be from a podcast, a movie, family, friends, or whatever the case. It seems we can never stop discussing relationships. We go back and forth deciding what is healthy, what is toxic, who's a narcissist. I'm really upset that everybody knows this word now. I'm tired of hearing it, but we discuss who's a narcissist, what we want, what they want, and more. If it isn't a podcast, it's a movie or a book explaining, what a man and a woman are doing right or wrong in terms of a relationship. Well, what if I told you, quite literally, none of this information matters? Nothing that you are currently listening to, reading, or watching regarding relationships matters. And that goes for romantic relationships, familial, working, business, any relationship. Now, the reason it doesn't matter, it's not because I'm pushing away clinical expertise or someone's educational program or even somebody else's opinion. It doesn't matter because we are all uniquely and individually made. We may have some of the same experiences, but even those are different because no one can experience what you experience in the same way you experience it. That was a lot said. We are all different, and that means our journey in a relationship fits us uniquely. So it is very difficult to listen in on the latest trends and terms, trying to apply them to your life and your relationships. Now, you may be wondering, then what is this episode about? How can you have an episode about relationships if what you just said is true? What I just said is the truth. And because the relationship we all must focus on at this point in order to be in any other relationship is our relationship with self, the relationship with you. If you're struggling with your mental health, or if you're struggling in any relationship, what you should focus on is building the best relationship with yourself. The best relationship with yourself will lay the groundwork and foundation for healthy relationships with others. A healthy relationship with self is linked to lower anxiety, a decrease in depressive symptoms, healthy rules and boundaries, better decision making, and more. It fulfills those external relationships as well. Now, what makes a healthy relationship with yourself is what you could be asking. In psychology, we first would like for you to focus on awareness, acceptance, self-trust and discipline, compassion, and emotional regulation. I will try to review as much as possible in these 5 categories. However, I would like to point out the need for a counseling path and how important therapy can be with knowing we can't understand this all in one go, right? There are other factors and means that you need to look into, the depths of your childhood, how you grew up, different patterns in that way. However, these 5 basic categories we'll go over today. And I'd like to say that the basis of therapy is for you to better or develop a healthiness within. So it is very vital to seek services from an individual with just going over these 5 categories, even if you start here, so that you can build a relationship within yourself that is better for you to be able to engage with the outside world. So let's start with self-awareness. Self-awareness is understanding your thoughts, your emotions, strengths, and limits. When you have a clear understanding of where you have been and where you would like to go in life, you are better able to vocalize to others what you need from them or how you fit into one another's lives. Self-awareness means you have knowledge of your character. You understand how that knowledge came to be, and you apply growth and healing to this understanding throughout your days, in which becomes your wisdom. That's how you become wise. You apply the knowledge and the understanding in real time to your life, and that's a wise individual. Now, where we normally fumble self-awareness is that we believe this means we must come to this peak or this arrival point in life that never shifts, never changes or adjusts. The truth is that when you are self-aware, you allow yourself to manage your reactions, to make better choices, and grow when required and where it's required. It's like building a house. You start with the foundation, and that's knowing your values and beliefs. You then build the structure or the bones that will hold it together. That can be your motivations and your character. You then create necessary rooms, and this whole house concept we'll use for the next points we discuss, but self-awareness is what keeps a home stable. When you understand your foundation and the bones or the structure, you are then better equipped to manage the house. So think of it in that way. Your self-awareness is your foundation that you build on, and things around it may shift, adjust, and change or need to be managed. However, what you're aware of, your beliefs and your values, that's the foundation. That's what you continually build on. We then step over into the room of self-acceptance, because this would be a room you built out. Self-acceptance is accepting both your strengths and flaws without harsh self-judgment, so it's not beating up on yourself. This involves recognizing and valuing your worth in spite of limitations, flaws, victories, and all. It is embracing yourself. It's liking and loving you, in which we know another is unable to do if we do not, right? We hear that common phrase of you can't love somebody else if you don't love yourself. This is where acceptance comes in, because you do have to accept yourself and love you in order for that to happen. A good way to measure self-acceptance is by seeing if you are able to be alone. Whether that looks like you engaging in a hobby or sitting quietly to reflect some time, can you be with you is the question. Can you be by yourself? And I know for many, especially after COVID, it was proven that's not the case. You don't know how to be by yourself. You don't know how to spend time alone. Some people get fearful. Some people get very nervous. And some people like to stay busy so that they're never alone. But we should be able to be with just ourselves and be at peace and be calm and regulated. And that will then help us when we do get into rooms and spaces with others, because we know how to maintain us. Now, this leads me to the room of self-trust and discipline. We're going to stick to the house building with these examples. So self-trust and discipline. This is believing in your ability to make decisions and handle challenges. Building self-trust and self-discipline requires understanding that you will not abandon you. It's the ability to control your own behavior, your emotions, and desires to work towards goals, even when it's difficult or you lack motivation. Relying on internal power rather than external force to do what you know you should do. This is self-trust and discipline. It's about making choices that align with your better self, overcoming distractions and managing weaknesses for self-improvement. Now, to properly build this room, you must review or question your decisions. You have to ask yourself, does this decision that I'm about to make serve the life I'm praying or planning for? The other question is, do I know how to both lead and follow? If you are able to trust yourself and be self-disciplined, then you may be able to emotionally regulate. But these two are important. Now, self-discipline and self-trust, they are two separate categories, truly. But the reason I'm putting them together for this episode is because the two play off off of each other. If you're disciplined, you may be able to trust yourself. And if you trust yourself, then you can be disciplined in your actions, your steps, and whatever it may be that you are doing in your life. But you have to ask yourself those questions. Like I said, this decision that I'm about to make, let's say that your discipline is that you are saving currently and you are trying to maintain bills and create a savings space for your finances, and you have to not eat out or not shop, not buy things that you don't need. That's discipline. So before you make any financial decision, you would have to ask yourself, is this going to lead to the life I'm praying and planning for? If it's not, then that means I will be stepping outside of discipline and trusting myself into something else that would create chaos and confusion, right? And then the other question is, do I need this? Is this necessary for how I am trying to live? Do I trust myself not to make the wrong decision? So self-discipline and self-trust comes into this self-talk, where you really need to speak to yourself and review plans. But that would also mean that you need to make plans, right? So in order to truly trust yourself with you need to be able to plan out a life for yourself. And that can be as simple as creating a list or, writing out your thoughts through journaling. However it may come, you need to write it out. You need to see it in real time and see if you are able to follow those steps. If you are unable to follow steps or unable to positively or in a healthy manner answer the questions that I've posed, then that would mean self-discipline and self-trust is an area you need to work on. And that would also mean that when you step into another relationship, like I said, romantic, family, any friendship, any relationship, you're probably not going to be disciplined or trustworthy in those if you can't maintain that with yourself, which would lead to not being emotionally regulated. So let's step into emotional regulation. That is managing emotions without suppressing or exploding. So I can be angry about what has occurred, but I will not engage in violence. Or I can be heartbroken and upset, but I will not be reckless with my life and time. I won't be impulsive. So you feel the emotion and understand why or even how you got there. However, you are able to either talk yourself through it or at least acknowledge you do not have the capacity to do so currently, but will revisit the emotional state and feelings later. Now, last but not least is the room of self-compassion. Self-compassion is treating yourself with kindness, care, gentleness, and concern. However, self-compassion is not just about offering yourself support and understanding when you're struggling. It also involves being proactive about you. So it's where you prevent or cause things to happen in your life rather than responding to it after it has already occurred or happened. An example I can use for this, which you may be shocked for me to use, but I can use the example of sex. I believe that media has allowed sex to become common or even unserious to us all. We watch shows and listen to individuals speak about randomly giving their bodies away and moving forward as if it is nothing. This has caused a detachment, and this detachment has caused people to no longer have control over their own lives because their decisions and actions are linked to many souls they've connected to and with. Now, stick with me. We're talking about self-compassion. Remember that I've explained that the mental health journey is one of the soul. It's a soul journey. So your soul consists of your mind, your will, and your emotions. Sex allows another person to integrate with your mind, will, and emotions, or to integrate with your soul. And that integration happens on a higher level than any other relationship. So, by example, I have a great relationship with my mother, but we are not intimate, of course, right? But with a significant other that I'm in a romantic relationship with, that puts us on a higher plane when we have sex. That height or depth is one you should definitely be compassionate about, right? You should have the utmost care and kindness and concern about whom you share your body with, because it is a direct opening to your soul or your mental space. Okay, an example I can give is that when I was growing up, There used to be these commercials about diseases from sex, I'll say. If you grew up in my time, you'll understand what I'm about to explain. So there used to be these commercials about diseases from sex. They would explain how not using protection equates to you having sex with not just that one person in front of you, but with all the people they've previously had sex with, right? So they would show like this, you'd be this point in the commercial, and then they'd show kind of this pyramid that begins to expand and grow, and it would be a bunch of different bodies or characters and stick figures, because that meant, okay, you and this person are one-on-one having sex with each other, but now there's a pyramid behind both of you of whomever you've engaged with as well. And that would equate to the possibility of you being able to get a disease from this act. Now think of that in terms of your soul and mental space. When you lack self-compassion and you are not proactive about guarding your body, condom or no condom, your soul and mental space become tangled and tied to the individual in front of you, all of their partners, and whomever else you've allowed in. So this becomes what we call a soul tie or an attachment disorder. And we wonder why we can't get away from people sometimes, or why we can't let somebody go. It's because you've engaged on this higher level within your soul and your mental space. And now everything is integrated and your souls are tangled and tied together. And now you have to go through an untying. But that means with everybody that you allowed in. So that's a lack of compassion on yourself. That's you not caring about you. That's you not being kind to yourself. Right? And I'm using this universal example only to show, one, how we need to take having sex more serious, and then two, how this is very important to your mental space and mental makeup, because it can affect you. When people become very sad and low and depressed over a breakup, it's because even though that person is gone out of your space, your souls are still intertwined, and that needs to be removed. And that takes some counseling and some therapeutic work. But if you're proactive and you make sure to prevent these things, you won't have to worry about that anyhow. Self-compassion is more important than we think, is the bottom line. So forgive yourself and be kind to you, but also prevent the unnecessary for yourself. These are some of the bases of a healthy relationship with you. When we all develop in these spaces within, we may just see and experience healthier relationships with others, and these conversations that we hear and that we're surrounded by may decrease a little bit more or become more healthier within themselves. Moving on to pop psych versus clinical psychology. Again, today, no myths, right? But I do want for us to dive into a very heavy topic. Let us focus on teen relationships, as this month is Teen Dating Violence Prevention Month. I believe it would be a wonderful idea for every parent to watch this episode with your teens and discuss the healthy relationship with self for them. It is also a good idea for, to review the relationships our teens are in and the relationships that they're seeing at home. What they see at home or from their parents can be a reflection of what they are willing to engage in and with. If home and childhood are inconsistent or critical or even unavailable, right, or abnormal, then the youth may develop things like attachment disorders, such as anxious attachment disorder. And that's where you develop self-doubt and a huge fear of rejection, so you won't say no to somebody that you shouldn't be engaged with. They can develop avoidant attachment, which is emotional distancing, right? So now you refuse to socialize when you should. Or even disorganized attachment. And that's confusion in relationships and possibly accepting abuse. So some points to make for this topic is 1, try to refrain from calling it puppy love. I know we all understand what that means as adults, but we can all remember our first boyfriend or girlfriend, and these are all real experiences. We really went through them, and they had some type of effect on our lives. So let's try to refrain from just pushing, what our teens are talking about off as just puppy love, and then not addressing what they're really going through as real feelings and thoughts, because that's necessary. Point 2 I would make is leave nothing unsaid. It is better that our children learn from us instead of from another whom is also lacking in knowledge, right? Remember, we're the healthy relationship with self. They need to learn themselves, and that happens through being able to openly process. A third point is to review the dangers of oversharing online and limit device time. We're in a space now where social media and just everything online is different now, right? Like for those of us who grew up like in the 90s or early 2000s, we were coming into a time of all of the technology, but it wasn't life, and there was still human connection where we met up with one another and actually hung out. Our children now, their time is spent heavily within devices. So make sure to monitor them and limit any time when necessary. And then 4, I would say do the work within for you so that your teen understands what growth and healing look like. A lot of times we can just display harsh punishment, we can display hard times and difficulties, and we don't focus on growth and healing. Let your teenager see how you are growing and healing so that they then understand that this can happen for them as well. Okay? We're going to move on to our mentally how are you question. This one reads, "Hi Neena, what do I do if I can't stop watching the news? I am heartbroken and in tears daily with all the news I see. My family tells me to stop, to just turn it off, or not to scroll, but that is easier said than done. I need to stay aware, and the actual news stations don't report everything to us, so I must scroll in order to understand what is happening around me. But I'm breaking. What do I do?" Let me start by saying, 1, you are not alone. I believe everyone or many of us may have the same current struggle, right? So right now it is very difficult not to scroll or pay attention to the news. I even understand your point of saying that the news does not supply or provide full information or even truthful information all of the time. So you have to scroll to try to dig for things. But I will say that one of the things I've been advocating for in the last couple of years is for everybody to take an unplugging time. It is very okay to unplug. I mean, it's all right here at the palm of our hand. So once you plug back in or go back into your device, you're going to be able to see everything that you missed or didn't catch in a day or two, right? But take time, 1, to just remove yourself. Even if you take 1 or 2 days a week and you say, I'm not going to watch the news and I'm not going to engage in scrolling, do that. But another thing you can do is to limit your structure and your routine with this. So for some individuals, you may wake up in the morning and watch the news. So you watch the morning news. And let's say then you don't watch any news throughout the day, but when you come home, you engage in the evening news. That would be a healthy response to this, especially since you're saying what you're watching is hurting you, right? You're saying that you're broken, you're breaking down from these things. The news is not going to help you feel any better, right? That information won't help you feel healthier, I'll say. It'll just keep you informed to staying low. So you need to limit your time with it. If you can't completely cut it off, then watch in the morning and maybe do a little bit of some scrolling in the evening. Not right before bed though. Don't scroll right before bed on the heavy stuff or doom scroll at that time. When I say the evening, I mean, your 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock time, and then let it be after so long. If you can't limit yourself in that way, then you may need to pick up a hobby. You may need to start thinking about things you need to do within and for yourself. So engaging in a weekly or, every other day hobby would be very well, so that when you have the thought to watch the news, you're already busy in something else. Outside of that, I would also say to really think about how you can advocate for the things that are concerning. So if you're watching the news and you're seeing something that's really heartfelt for you or heartbreaking and it moves your emotions, then think to yourself, how can I volunteer or help out in real time with this struggle versus just focusing on it on my screen? So if you love animals and you keep seeing news about animals and you just can't take hearing, an animal being harmed or not having anywhere to go volunteer at a shelter, right? If it's politics for you and you just can't take the way that things are being handled right now, which none of us can, then go and volunteer for your local alderman or mayor, right? Like, go out and do something, engage, do something about what you're struggling with or what's hurting you or what you believe is hurting your community at this point. And that will help you feel a little bit more positive, because now you're doing something about what you're seeing versus just taking it all in. We've become very numb to just overloading ourselves, and now we're kind of clogged up. We don't have anywhere to put it. So put it somewhere, in a hobby or in some type of action. Those are my suggestions for what you are going through. Please remember to email any of your questions to mentallyhowareyou@gmail.com. And again, I will answer as best as I can. For our toolbox technique today, it focuses on the vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve is a critical component of the nervous system. It acts as an information superhighway between your brain and major organs. So it regulates involuntary functions like your heart rate, digestion, breathing, and your immune response, playing a vital role in managing stress, inflammation, lowering your heart rate, blood pressure, and promoting relaxation. It also helps shift the body out of fight and flight mode. So today, I want you to take the time to review your body and your makeup, to review what your body may be unable to properly, let's say, digest, and what helps your specific digestion needs. So review what you can begin eating on, let's say, a whole foods diet, because that will help your vagus nerve stabilize, and you'll feel less stressed and less anxious all the time. For your wellness in 60 seconds, I am going to say that if you are feeling overwhelmed and you have an inability to focus, try calming the vagus nerve. An example I can give you is that you would take both hands and gently place them right on the top of your head, like at the very point of your head, and then have a focus point. So if I were to focus on my microphone, right, and you're going to breathe in slowly through your nose, and then you're going to breathe out slowly through your mouth. So I will put both hands on my head, and I'd focus on the microphone and breathe. As you do this, you will feel the calmness come over your body, and I would highly recommend that you do this as an exercise, like sets, right? So do 3 sets of 3. If reaching for your head is too much for you, some people have an irritation with their ears or balance issues with their ears, you can put your hands right below your ears on your neck, because this is also a location that's central to be able to touch your vagus nerve system. You can press gently and then do the same breathing, where you breathe in through your nose and you push out through your mouth very slowly. If you do touch here, like right below your ears, you will feel your breaths yourself, and that will also help you with the calming to calm that vagus nerve, because that's what gets worked up when we're overwhelmed, when we're stressed, and when we just don't know what to do with ourselves. So take a moment, sit back, either your hands on your head or right below your ears on your neck, and breathe. And like I said, something like 3 sets of 3 or 4 sets of 4. Just make sure that you maintain the pace very slowly, and this will help bring a calmness and a regulation to your entire system. I want to thank you all for sitting with me on this episode of Mentally How Are You? It is my hope that you are leaving more stable than when you came in. I will see you all soon. I do want to say to all of my high schoolers out there, be safe, be positive. If you are going to protest, make sure that it is something that is meaningful to you and what you actually want to engage in, and that you're not just out there for fun, because this is very serious, and I think that we just need to make sure that you all are safe, and it's okay to stand for what you want to stand for, but just stay focused on the purpose and the point. See you guys soon. You all stay safe. Have a great weekend, everybody.
No judgment, just love, so I can be me. I'm tired of hearing it's okay not to be okay. Just want the dark days to go away. Mentally, how are you? How are you? Yeah, I know it's hard, but you can get well if you want to. Mentally, how are you? Yeah. Well, if you